Hi you all! Today I am going to share to you all my learnings, understandings, reflections, and how am I going to apply these learnings today in the future. So let's start. Freud's personality components. According to Freud's psychoanalytic theory, the id is the primitive and instinctual part of the mind that contains sexual and aggressive drives and hidden memories. The superego operates as a moral conscience, and the ego is the realistic part that mediates between the desires of the id and the superego. Although each part of the personality comprises unique features, they interact to form a whole, and each part makes a relative contribution to an individual's behavior. Okay, so now to discuss how id and ego and the superego works, I will be sharing you my very usual routine. Okay, so when I do my assignment, I always think like, why would I do my assignment? It is not giving me pleasure. It is a boring thing. It is not a good activity for me. So I have to like do something else, something more pleasurable, like playing Mobile Legends or watching movies on Netflix or whatever those are that would give me pleasure. So that is how the id works. It is trying to push me to do something else rather than doing what is have to be done. Now, the superego here is trying to push me to do what is have or what is supposed to be done. So it is trying to convince me to actually do my homework. Now, it is making me think that if I do not do my assignment, I might fail in the subject. I might not become the person that I want to be in the future. So that's failure. Now, when I do my assignment, it would make me pass the subject. It would make me become smarter or would learn more. So that is how the superego works. It is referring to the morality principle. That is how the superego works. Now, in the middle part is the ego. It is said that it works in the reality principle. Now, it would make me come up to thinking that which one would make sense. Does doing my assignment would make me would like be a positive thing, or I would have to do something else so I could gain pleasure. So that question is for the ego itself. So I have to like think either to follow the id or the superego. The ego here is in the equilibrium part that balances the whole situation. What I have learned in Freud's personality components is that I learned that id works on the pleasure principle. It pushes me to something that would give me satisfaction. The superego is likened to conscience because it exerts influence on what one considered right and wrong. The superego also embodies a person's moral aspect, and the ego which works on the reality principle that decides either to obey id or the superego. And when I encounter instances like being forced by my id to do something else rather than my prior works, I have to think thoroughly if it is worthy or if it's not. I have to follow which will make me fruitful, because if I don't, I might end up less. My consciousness is supposed to be focusing to more positivities. When I become a teacher, I will observe my students carefully if their choices are good enough for them. I have to lead them to where they will end up abundantly and not be disturbed with something else. Heinz's dilemma. A woman was near death from a special kind of cancer. There was one drug that the doctors thought might save her. It was a form of radium that a druggist from the same town had recently discovered. The drug was expensive to make, but the druggist was charging 10 times what the drugs cost him to make. He paid $200 for the radium and charged $2,000 for a small dose of the drug. The sick woman's husband, Heinz, did not have enough money to buy the drug. He went from everyone he knew to borrow the money, but he could only get together $1,000. He told the druggist that his wife was dying and asked him to sell it cheaper. But the druggist said, "No, I discovered a drug that I'm going to make money for it." Heinz got desperate and broke into the man's store and stole the drug for his wife. Should Heinz have broken into the store and stole the drug for his wife? Why or why not? So that was Heinz's dilemma. And it left us a question: should Heinz have broken into the store and stolen the drugs for his wife? So some people would say yes and some people would say not. But what Kohlberg actually cares about is not the yes or the no, but he cares about the reasoning. How are we going to react from that kind of situation? That's why he come up to those three stages of moral development: the pre-conventional morality, the conventional morality, and the post-conventional morality. Stage 1, the pro-conventional morality. It is the lower level of morality which talks about obedience and punishments, as well as the individual interests. People who are under this one is worried about the punishments. Conventional morality focuses to the interpersonal and authority, and the last one is the post-conventional morality, which refers to the self-contract and universal ethics. Okay, if I were to answer the Heinz dilemma, I would also say yes too, because people have the right to live, and I believe that my answer would fall to the post-conventional morality too. Piaget's stages of cognitive development. Basic cognitive concept. Schemas are thought processes that are essentially building blocks of knowledge. Assimilation is how you use your existing schemas to interpret a new situation or object. Accommodation is what happens when you change a schema or create a new one to fit new information you learn. Equilibrium happens when you're able to use assimilation to fit in most of the new information you learn, so you're not constantly adding new schemas. A very simple example for this to know how it works is, a boy knows that a dog has 4 legs and 1 tail. So that's the schema. So now the boy saw another animal that has the same characteristics as the dogs. It also has 4 legs and a tail. The boy said that it is also a dog, but actually it's not a dog, it was a cat. He just thought that those animals were both the same because it has the same features, the same characteristics. That would fall to assimilation. Okay, so those were the basic cognitive concepts. Now is the main part, the stages of cognitive development. In stage 1, the sensory motor stage, in this stage it is ranged from birth to infancy. This is the stage when a child who is initially reflexive in grasping, sucking, and reaching becomes more organized in his movement and activity. The term sensory motor focuses on the prominence of the senses and muscle movement through which the infant comes to learn about himself and the world. In stage 2, the pre-operational stage, it is ranged from 2 to 7 years old. During this stage, young children are able to think about things symbolically. Their language use becomes more mature. They also develop memory and imagination, which allows them to understand the difference between past and future and engage in make-believe. In stage 3, concrete operational stage, it is ranged from 8 to 11 years old. At this time, elementary age and pre-adolescent children, ages to 7 to 11, show logical, concrete reasoning. Children's thinking becomes less focused on themselves. They're increasingly aware of external events. They begin to realize that their own thoughts and feelings are unique and may not be shared by others or may not even be part of reality. And now the last stage is the formal operational stage, covering the age between 12 to 15 years old. Adolescents who reach this 4th stage of intellectual development are able to use symbols related to abstract concepts, such as algebra and science. They can think about things in systematic ways, come up with theories, and consider possibilities. They also can ponder abstract relationship and concepts such as justice. Okay, what I have learned about it is that a child can gain knowledge from their perceptions but still needs of a proper guidance to correct some misconceptions. Our schema must be organized, so do every child, because their simple understanding to a thing is not always accurate. In the cognitive development of a child, in every coming day, it is noticeable that their movements are developing as well as their cognitive skills, including their senses, then their imaginary features to determine past and present, their emotions, and their intellectual development at the final stage. Every parent, guardians, elder siblings, educators, or even I, or whoever you are, your proper guidance to educate your children through guiding them in building little knowledge is a great help for them. Let's help them learn from every tiny details of an object with proper understanding so that they can be sure to analyze and picture out if their thoughts are actually correct. Bronfenbrenner's bioecological theory. Okay, there are 5 ecological systems that Bronfenbrenner had, which means that how the environment give an impact to the development of the child. Okay, so there were 5: the microsystem, mesosystem, exosystem, macrosystem, and the chronosystem. The microsystem is the first level of Bronfenbrenner's theory. This has a direct contact with the child in their immediate environment, such as parents, siblings, teachers, and school peers. So in this level, those people who are close to the child can influence his or her development, and that may also change the beliefs of the child. The reactions of the child to individuals in their microsystem can influence how they treat them in return. If a child has a strong nurturing relationship with their parents, this is said to have a positive effect on the child, unlike distant and unaffectionate parents will have a negative effect on the child. In microsystem, people who are close with the child are considered part of the microsystem, such as their parents, their siblings, and whoever those are. So in my experience, when I was a child, I was taught by my parents to always do the pagmamano as a sign of respect. So this is a very essential gesture to me because until now I always do this thing, and whenever I do this, I also receive respect from those people near me. So that is how I developed and become who I am today. The mesosystem encompasses the interactions between the child's microsystems, such as the interactions between the child's parents and teachers, or between school peers and siblings. The mesosystem is where a person's individual microsystems do not function independently, but are interconnected and assert influence upon one another. So remember that in mesosystem, it is the interaction between the child's microsystem. Okay, so out of my experiences when I was young at church, I always see my mother showing big smiles from her faces towards her friends, towards her pastors and the pastoress. And after that, seeing her that way makes me feel really comfortable at the people at the place as well. So after that, I always go to church every Sunday, knowing that the people and the place is is giving me comfort and giving me the serene ambience. Exosystem. It incorporates other formal and informal social structures, which do not themselves contain the child, but indirectly influence them as they affect one of the microsystems. Example of exosystem includes the neighborhood, parents' workplace, parents' friends, and the mass media. These are environments in which the child is not involved and are external to their experiences, but nonetheless affects them anyway. An instance of exosystems affecting the child's development could be if one of the parents had a dispute with their boss at work. The parent may come home and have a short temper with the child as a result of something which happened in the workplace, resulting in a negative effect of the development. The fourth one is the macrosystem. So it focuses on how cultural elements affect the child's development, such as social status, wealth, poverty, and ethnicity. Thus, culture that individuals are immersed within may influence their beliefs and perceptions about events that transpire in life. The macrosystem differs from the previous ecosystem as it does not refer to the specific environments of one developing child, but the already established society and culture which the child is developing in. This can also include the socioeconomic status, ethnicity, geographic location, and ideologies of the culture. For example, a child living in a third world country would experience a different development than a child living in a wealthier country. The last one is the chronosystem, which consists of all the environmental changes that occur over the lifetime which influence development, including major life transitions and historical events. So there is life transition. The same thing happened to me before where our family moved to a new house 3 times. It was tough, especially when we have to start again and take a huge adjustment. New home, new faces, new environment, everything is new. I realized that the environment can change a child's perspectives, behavior, development, and growth. I learned that when a child is unloved or uncared or unappreciated, it will have a negative effect to the child. The child might become a bully or might seek too much attention or might become dissociative with his or her classmates. I really hope that this video will spread as an awareness to all those parents out there to please show affections to your child so that they will grow and will become the person you want them to be. With these learnings I have today, and knowing how much the environment affects the development of a child, seeing my future students every day, I have to let them feel how it feels like being treated like my own children. I must educate them with proper manners and morality and not putting them in too much stress. I believe that education starts at home. A home where everybody describes as a feeling of cloud nine, a sweet home filled with love and affection from family. But how about those kids who have distant parents? Parents who are unaffectionate to their children? Parents who do not appreciate their kids? It's sad, but it's true. Now, my job as a future teacher is to fill their aching hearts with love as if I'm their parent. I have to appreciate every little good thing they do at school and check their mistakes in a sincere way. I believe that it would be best to show love and care to your students. Student diversity or individual differences. In this topic, it talks about your differences towards other people. These includes your gender, your race, your ethnicity or background culture. Gender is one of the main factors of individual differences. When we say gender, it does not only classify it into two categories, the male or the female, but it also includes all those genders that are existing in this world today, such as gays, bisexual, transgender, and all those LGBTQ plus community. I consider myself as part of this community, a gay person who claims a spot to this world. Race. Black, white, Asian people are few examples of race. It talks about your identity shown based from the color of your skin and your location. I belong to the Asian race. I do have a brown skin, and most Asians' height are way shorter than those people compared to other races like black and white. Yes, we also vary from race. And now is the ethnicity or the background culture. It tells about which tribe do you belong, what your cultures and traditions are, and on top of that is our nationality. Okay, so I am a Filipino with a quarter Manobo blood. I do not have much knowledge about my tribe, but I do respect them, of course. Okay, so Filipinos have many tribes existing still today. There are also other factors that shows individual differences like the socioeconomic status, your thinking or learning style, and the exceptionalities. In socioeconomic status, it talks about your lifestyle. Either you are from a family of millionaires, or maybe you are from the middle income class or the lower income group. And the remaining two is the exceptionalities and the thinking and learning style, which can be tackled later on. Good thing here is that there are benefits of diversity inside the classroom. 1. Student self-awareness is enhanced by diversity. 2. Student diversity contributes to cognitive development. 3. Student diversity prepares learners for their role as a responsible member of the society, and student diversity can promote harmony. After acquiring new knowledge from our classmates who are different from us in terms of background culture, we gain self-awareness. Since we have different point of views and thinking styles inside the classroom, we share and hear knowledge from our classmates and from our teachers, then that contributes to our cognitive development. There is then a sense of understanding that revolves out from the interaction that we had inside the classroom. And we become a responsible individual after that. We learned, we were prepared, we were practiced to become a responsible member of the society. And with all those learnings that we had, we developed harmony. The main purpose of knowing the student diversity inside the classroom is for us to understand each other's differences And with understanding, we become self-aware that their cultures is different from us. So we respect each other's cultures and traditions. And with those, we become responsible also to the interaction that we will have to our classmates. And in that way, it would put the classroom in order. In the future, knowing that every students have differences, I have to conduct an activity which promotes student diversity. I have to see them come out and show who they really are, where do they come from or what their capabilities are. I have to see them involving in my activities with their confidence in them. Who knows, maybe one student is too discouraged to join because of what he or she wears compared to the most of his or her classmates, or maybe one student is too afraid to join because of his or her gender or whatsoever reasons. I have to welcome all of them. My job here is to motivate them. I have to encourage them to pursue all their dreams to become a somebody in the future. Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. Number 1, visual and partial intelligence. People who are strong in visual and partial intelligence are good at visualizing things. These individuals are often good with directions as well as maps, charts, videos, and pictures. Linguistic verbal intelligence. People who are strong in linguistic verbal intelligence are able to use words well. Logical mathematical intelligence. People who are strong in logical mathematical intelligence are good at reasoning, recognizing patterns, and logically analyzing problems. Bodily kinesthetic intelligence. Those who have high bodily kinesthetic intelligence are said to be good at body movement, performing actions, and physical control. People who are strong in this area tend to have excellent hand-eye coordination and dexterity. Naturalistic intelligence. These individuals are said to be highly aware of even subtle changes to their environments. Musical intelligence. People who have strong musical intelligence are good at thinking in patterns, rhythms, and sounds. They have a strong appreciation for music and are often good at musical composition and performances. The interpersonal intelligence are those who have strong and good understanding and interacting with other people. Those individuals are skilled at assessing the emotions, motivations, desires, and intentions of those around them. Every one of us has different learning styles. We have different likes, different preferences, different shares, or whatever those are, as long as we can learn from our ways. Then that's fine, that's alright. One student is able to understand a lesson through reading, but the other understands through listening. Meaning, they both have different learning styles, but are still able to understand. If one student excels in paintings or drawings, and the other excels in rhythmic activities, then they have opposite likes. Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences is a topic that should be learned by all. By this theory, teachers will be able to enhance their students' skills depending on their likes and capabilities. I realized that I have also been struggling in some fields, but shines to other fields. I have great skills that I must hone and improve, and I might be having a hard time in some area. The perseverance to finish is what I need the most in order to complete my goals. Soon, when I become a teacher, finding out that not all of my students are able to understand my lesson through a simple class discussion, then I must involve activities that needs movements, interactions, writings, drawings, puzzles, and all other activities that fall into those unique intelligences. It'd be great that seeing them improving their skills because of my help, my proper guidance, and proper education, it would really make me feel so blissful of that. That's why teachers are good mentors to your students. Learners with exceptionalities. In this topic, we'll be focusing to those people who are in need of special needs related to cognitive abilities, behavior, social functioning, physical and sensory impairments, emotional disturbance, and giftedness. There are people who are experiencing with learning disabilities like dyslexia and dyscalculia. When we say dyslexia, it is a condition where a person is having a hard time recognizing the words or the letters. In this dyscalculia, it is having trouble in regards to number operations. Now, the ADHD or the attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is when child is a child is having a hard time controlling his actions or his movements. So those children are like they cannot stay still on their seats. They move around like there are no teachers in front. Social, emotional, and behavioral difficulties like autism and mental retardation, physical disabilities and health impairments, severe and multiple disabilities. Okay, this one, the severe and multiple disabilities, it is when a person is having more than one physical conditions like what I have watched before about this woman who had two learning disabilities. I mean, two physical conditions. She has she was blind and she cannot hear, so she was deaf. So she would fall to multiple disabilities. This woman is Helen Keller, but even though she has this kind of condition, she is still able to conquer the world. She had gained and inspired a lot of people out from her experience and situations. Okay, she was a very bright woman. She influenced a lot of people that despite of your disabilities, you can still outshine the world. You can still be able to give an impact to the world and become a person that a lot of people would admire. Okay, so that's why I also admire Helen Keller because of that experiences. Sensory impairments like visual impairments and hearing impairments. Okay, visual impairments. I do have a lot of friends who are suffering with like a very low vision. Like they have to use eyeglasses to see clearly. And the hearing impairments. So those involves malfunctions of the ear or the auditory nerves that hinders perception of sounds within the frequency or of range of normal speech. So they have so they cannot hear clearly, or those people who cannot totally hear. Now is the giftedness. I really like this one, This involves a significantly high level of cognitive development, so those are very bright people. There is unusually high ability of or aptitude in one or more of these impacts like intellectual ability, aptitude or in academic subject, creativity, visual or performing arts or leadership. So those people who are gifted are very bright, like they always top on class. They can answer and speak well and more advanced than his or her classmates. So I totally admire also the gifted. I realized that I, who was born with no disabilities, did not value myself more than it's supposed to be valued. I act as if I know and can handle everything, even if it's not. Sometimes I do not value my studies. I study less. I do not work hard in school. I do not come up to thinking about those people with disabilities who are willing to learn but are struggling because of their conditions. I realize that I am fortunate enough in life and that I have to use my skills in honing other people. Other children who are fighting hard for their future, particularly those who have learning disabilities. I learned that every student is special and that they can learn in many ways. Soon enough, when I become a teacher, I guarantee every student that they will learn a lot from me. I will help every single one of them. They might have learning disabilities or not. My classroom is open for all of them. I will use different strategies if they are wrestling with the other. Also, we don't need a profession to impart knowledge. As long as you have the capability to touch and teach young ones from your experiences in life, then you can be a tool. You can be a light for them. You are perfectly made to enlighten those people, so we have to use our skills properly. Behaviorism. So in this topic, we will learn about classical conditioning, which was conducted by Ivan Pavlov, Edward Thorndike's connectionism theory, John B. Watson, who worked with the idea of Ivan Pavlov, and B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning. In Ivan Pavlov's classical conditioning, he used a dog, a food, and a bell in order to conduct his experiment. So his aim here is to salivate the dog from an unnatural stimuli. At the first stage, he only used the bell, so he rang the bell and got no response from the dog. And in the second stage, he rang the bell, which is accompanied with the food, and he now have a response from the dog. So if he did this over and over until finally in the last stage, he only used the bell and without the presence of food. Now, when he rang the bell, he still has a response from the dog. So that is how the classical conditioning works. So even if there is already no presence of the food, the dog has a response from the sound of the bell. In Edward L. Thorndike's conditionalism theory, he had this SR, the stimulus response, which is a framework of behavioral psychology. He explained that learning is the result of associating, forming between stimuli and response. States that learning has taken place when a strong connection or bonds between stimulus and response is formed. He come up with three primary laws: the law of effect, law of readiness, and the law of exercise. In law of effect, for example, if you have a positive response or a response that is comforting for you, then you will likely to do it again in that situation. But if the result is discomforting or something negative, then you will likely to not do it again for that situation. For example is, when you pass an examination because you studied very well, then for the next exam, you will likely to study more again to pass a lot of exams. That's the law of effect. Law of exercise has this quote: practice makes perfect. Okay, we have this repetitive activity in order for you to perfectly able to execute the activity very well, such as memorizing a poem. So there is a repetitive or a repetition happening around for you to be able to memorize the poem. In law of readiness, it is when an individual is physically, emotionally, and mentally ready to learn, because if they are not, they cannot see any reason of learning. John B. Watson's experiment on Albert. It is commonly termed today as Little Albert experiment. So, John B. Watson conditioned a small child to fear a white rat. They accomplished this by repeatedly pairing the white rat with a loud, frightening, clanging noise. They were also able to demonstrate that this fear could be generalized to white, furry objects other than the white rat. The ethics of the experiment are often criticized today, especially because the child's fear was never deconditioned. B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning. Okay, the very main thing for this is rewards introduced to increase the behavior and punishments for introduced to decrease behavior. For example, for trained dogs, when a dog owner says sit and the dog obeys, the dog will receive a snack because of his obedience. But when the dog disobeys the owner, he will get no reward. In this lesson, I learned and realized that training up a child could help them improve their skills and talents. It is better for people to see that a child needs positive reinforcements for them to do more of the good stuffs. They need motivation from us through a simple appreciation from conducts. Then they would be much persevered to do better. Everybody loves good rewards. Let's make this as a strategy for them to fight for it. So we can actually train up a child in the way he or she should go. We have the power to instruct them for their coming times. Our voices should educate them with our proper guidance so we could shape them to who we want them to be. But of course, it's up for them to decide what they want to be when they grow up. Our mission is only to assist them in a conventional way. Now, as a future teacher, it is best to always appreciate them even in their leapless achievements, because it triggers them to always do their best. So I guess I have already shared to you all my ideas about those topics, and I guess that will be all, and I thank you.